So welcome, and you will introduce our panelists as we go.
I'll go ahead and get started, and my voice suddenly will come across. I'll go ahead and get started. Can everybody hear me or ready? Welcome. Thanks for coming. Because this is a panel, I thought that you've done this panel. Pretty much know that now. What? You can't hear me?
You have to speak up.
Okay.
Talk loud.
The way that I kind of envision this seminar working is that I kind of consider us all community at this point. We're all part of this kind of community program. We're all working together, similar goals. And I just wanted to have a session where we could really talk to the folks that really matter, like the co-panelists. Because, as I mentioned in the introduction there, when we created the Camera Ready program, we didn't want to just give you a certificate and say walk away and what to do after that. And sometimes the best way that you learn is through folks who have kind of been through it and have dealt with different requests and had to do certain things for production companies to attract them when they set up. So that's really what I want to do there. This is kind of informal. We're going to talk about our experiences with different shows that we've been here. And then I hope that you'll have a lot of questions to ask me, especially to them, because they really have some stories to tell. And it's all good, but sometimes you do face challenges, and we want to talk about that. So I'm Craig Dominey, as you know. This is Nancy Price. She's our Camera Ready Liaison for Fayette County, and Pam Thompson is for Rabun County. I just wanted to start with, talk about, just going to start with you, Nancy, about when you became Camera Ready, how many shows you've done with since, and some examples, some titles that we might know.
Check, 1, 2, test, 1, 2.
Okay.
Why don't you start over again?
You know what I think you do for the video?
Should I start over? I still feel like
If you're willing.
Yeah. All right. I like this better, actually. Anybody have any requests? All right. So, well, what I said is that I could look at this session as being, since we're all sort of part of the Camera Ready program, is something. This is an opportunity for you to really learn about the impact that shows have on your community and some of the issues that you may deal with once somebody decides to shoot in your area. And that's why we have these two panelists with us today, because both of them have dealt with different productions, many different productions in their particular community. So they have some stories to tell you, and so I hope this will be sort of informal and that you'll have a lot of questions to ask them about what to expect when the shows come to your area. So why don't you start you and Nancy introduce yourself, then we'll go to Pam.
Okay, I am Nancy Price, and I'm the Executive Director of the Peachtree City Convention and Visitor Bureau, and also the Camera Ready Liaison for State. We'll go ahead and talk about our experiences now.
So we'll talk about, so when did you become Camera Ready?
We became Camera Ready actually last March, but prior to that, we already had quite a bit of activity. You know, they say location is very, very important, and we are fortunate to be located very close to a little city called Sonoy that has just been booming with all kinds of activity film-wise because they have Raleigh Studios, which is located there. So because of that proximity to Peachtree City, and also our proximity to the airport, the lack of traffic down on the south side of the city, we have been able to piggyback on Sonoy's success and also establish ourselves with Drop Dead Diva going into the 4th season of Drop Dead Diva. We're very, very happy to have that located right there in Peachtree City. We even have named one of our streets Diva Drive, so that's kind of neat. We had a ribbon cutting on Diva Drive, and the head honcho from Sony that was in charge of Drop Dead Diva at the time, she was just so impressed that we were renaming a street in honor of their program. She said, she of course operates out of New York. She said, do you know what it would take to rename a street in New York? But anyway, the street leads nowhere, but it doesn't matter. It's some place to go and for visitors to drive by, and it's just kind of neat. We've had, in the past year, actually, I think 8 different film projects that have been going on within and around the county and also Coweta County. And you will notice that I reference them a lot because they truly are our partner in this whole film industry excitement. So some of the movies that we have, of course, how many have seen Joyful Noise that just came out recently? Dolly Parton and Queen Latifah. That was filmed actually last March. And that portion of that, I know that was filmed in and around Atlanta, but the Kirk Franklin scene at the outdoor amphitheater was actually filmed at our outdoor amphitheater. And I happen to manage that amphitheater along with the other hats that I wear. So that was just very special for me to have them choose our rather small, intimate venue over some of the larger venues that they were looking at around the Atlanta area. And most probably part of the reason they did choose us was because we are set in the woods. It's very private. There's not a lot of public interference. And they were able to come over and set up their base camp right there in the parking lot and film for, they really only filmed one day that one scene. But they were there probably 4 or 5 days setting up, breaking down, and so forth. So that was huge. I guess I didn't really realize what base camp, what the footprint was. And let me just say, you have to be prepared for a large operation. But it's so exciting, and it's just absolutely fantastic to go to the movie theater, and as many of you may have already experienced, look at the big screen and see something from your community on there. So that's been really exciting. We've had a lot of people, a big buzz about Joyful Noise and the Fred Amphitheater. And I know we have an hour. I just wanted to tell this funny little story about the gentleman that the amphitheater was named after. He's one of our past mayors, and he decided, he turns 90 this year. He was an extra in the film, actually. And the day that they were checking in the extras that they were going to be filming down there, he arrived on his little golf cart, and he got there early because that's just the way Fred does things. And so he parked his golf cart, and they had two different tents for the extras. One was for the paid extras, and one was we just recruited a lot of our ticket holders to come, and they just wanted to be in the film, so they were not actually compensated. Fred was supposed to not be compensated, but he didn't know that, so he got in line for the tent that was to be compensated, and ended up being treated quite nicely all day. He got put down center, and all throughout that scene, he's about 6'3" or so, and you can just clearly see Fred Brown in the scene the entire time. So that was exciting to have our ex-mayor on there, really special for him at the venue. So there's all kinds of things that happen as a result of the filming in your community. Not the least of which is the economic impact that comes back to you. And I had a discussion with the Drop Dead Diva location manager, who we've gotten to be fairly good friends because they come in to see us often for visitors packets, or we get phone calls with all kinds of questions, and of course the permitting process, the signs and so forth. And so last year he gave me some figures about the economic impact of Drop Dead Diva for season 3. The figures that he gave me were the total expenditures in Georgia were $22,147,000. The labor expenses, which of course this is all going back into, hopefully most of it are local vendors, was $15,250,000. And his purchases and rentals were $6,900,000. So I think that's pretty impressive as far as what the dollars are going back into Georgia. And then of course you have the hotel motel tax, the heads and beds and so forth, which can actually be documented fairly well. And our hotels love the film industry because they have kept them active in a time when the economy is definitely taking a dip. So from 2010 to 2011, when we had all this film activity going on, we were actually up a total of 11,000 room nights year to date for that 1 year, and $1 million more in total hotel tax revenue. So quite substantial. A couple of the other films that actually were filming in and about Peachtree City was, of course, The Walking Dead. What to Expect When You Were Expecting Mississippi Wild, which was a film that was only there for 5 weeks and then ended up not getting the funding, actually. Yes. The Odd Life of Timothy Green, which is a Disney film. The Wettest County. And then, of course, I already mentioned Walking Dead, which is based over at Raleigh Studios. And so the zombies are in and about Peachtree City as well as over in Sonoy. So that's the activity that we had the last year. And there were some other various, of course, commercials. We actually had another small film that didn't get funded either. They even had moved into their production headquarters, set up, scouted their locations and everything, and then pulled out. So I guess that happens as well. Yeah.
I hate to keep asking this, but can you all hear me? Because I feel like it still isn't on. Kind of, sort of? It's better. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So I want to introduce you now to Pam Thompson from Rabun County. Pam has had a lot of filming activity up there within the past year or so. Plus, of course, we're about to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Deliverance, which really got everything started in the state. So, Pam, can you just talk about some of the projects that have been up in your area recently?
Okay, can y'all hear me? I can hear myself. I'm battling a cold, so y'all pardon me if I sound a little odd. But basically, we've had 3 really nice projects in the last year. We became camera ready last February. The first one was in Weddis County, and man, they came 1 week, they made a call, and they wanted their locations the next week. So we were really struggling and battling the odds of finding exactly what they want. We did. They were only there for about a week, but everything with Weddis County was last minute. We've got to have it tomorrow, and it was quite interesting. One thing I will say that helped me the most, and it's really the reason I'm the camera ready liaison, is because I'm so familiar with our area and all the people involved in all aspects of our area. Because I'm from Rabun County and grew up there, but knowing the product was really important. The one thing that I learned from the first project was that the first meeting should be with all your county officials and kind of let them know what's going on. We don't require permits, really, in Rabun County. Of course, the National Forest requires permits and the state parks do, and the National Forest is really our draw, the Chattooga River and our mountains and lakes. And so 75% of Rabun County is actually U.S. Forest Service land. And that's really been tough because they require a 45-day minimum, usually a 90-day on the permit. So if your county is one that has the benefit of the National Forest, it's really important to stress to the movie industry that they have to follow the guidelines of the Forest Service, and I'll explain that a little bit. Of course, the Weddis County made their decisions daily. We want so-and-so tomorrow, and we had to find what they needed. So that was interesting. The next project that we had was early last summer, and that was the goats, and of course that starred Val Kilmer, and they were actually in Rabun County for the entire time that they were filming, and huge economic impact when they're there for that. We have a tourism formula for our economic impact in Rabun County, and the goats, I believe, was well over $500,000. Isn't that right, too? But for the goats, because they were going to be there so long, after our initial meeting with the commissioners and the sheriff's office, and of course their board for traffic patrol, we started having to find office space and warehouses, and that's one of the areas that I think you kind of have to think outside the box as far as locations and office space, warehouse space. We found an old feed store, and it was vacant, and it wasn't a warehouse, but it was certainly a great big old building, and it had a lot of space and a lot of good parking, so that worked out well. We also had the benefit of being able to give a lot of local people work. They needed PAs, they needed people to pick up their trash, waste management. They all, of course, every movie that has come, I say every movie, there's only been 3 this year, but they all need tents, tables, chairs. So in a way, they're all very similar, even though they're different. We also had need for seamstresses, for carpenters, gravel haulers. I mean, the list is endless, and that's a wonderful boost to the local economy. I found myself with the goats being a negotiator, a mediator, and a problem solver, which I really wasn't prepared for that, but we got through it, and it's been interesting. The next film that came, of course, was Killing Season, and they just left a couple of weeks ago, and same thing, they needed the tents, tables, chairs, generators, waste management, all that, but the one thing that I learned from the Killing Season was what happens when there's no communication. I went from from getting a phone call every day or every other day from the Goats film production and the Wettest County to having no communication. And that was a little more frustrating because I was hearing things that they were looking for in the community, and I made the phone call and sent the emails, and I'm here to help you, that's what I do, and still no communication. Well, as a result of that, I started working on an information packet, which I highly recommend. And that information packet will have all the county officials, all the emergency medical, the mapping office is really important, or has been for us, as well as lodging with numbers of rooms, restaurants, vendors, especially stores that are willing to rent props as opposed to selling. The list, as you start thinking about it, the list is long. And it's going to take some time to complete it. And I suppose it will never be complete, but that's the one thing that I've come away from this with that I think is really important for everyone is that package.
I was going to mention that sort of starting at the beginning, this will probably get into when we get into specific discussions about permitting and Forest Service and whatnot. Is, at the very beginning of the process, it's all about the shooting locations, and that's why we've asked as much as you can to get photos into the state's Real Scout system, because that's how we typically learn about what your community has to offer based on the needs of the script. Now, of course, Killing Season was an interesting case because the whole reason they really ended up in it was because the director had seen Deliverance, and I wanted to mention that over there a minute ago. He said, I want to shoot this movie where they shot Deliverance. And so we had moved in coverage, and he wasn't, no matter what happened, he was going to shoot at that gorge, so they tried to find other locations that were around there to kind of get as much bang for their buck, I guess, that you could say. But when we're all showing folks these locations, the movie company's in a hurry to get everything situated and find their shooting locations as quickly as possible. But there are, you'll be dealing with many different kinds of entities out there. You'll be dealing with private landowners, you'll be dealing with the state, you'll be dealing with maybe the feds, city, county, whoever it might be. And it's important to know what the filming procedures are, if any, because it's, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in a minute, but they're going to see, the production company's going to see a shooting location and say, okay, this is perfect, let's do it. But they may not know what they have to go through to shoot there. Now, in theory, all of these studios and production companies hire a location manager whose job it is to sort of be the liaison between the show and the local community, and they handle all the permitting and application, whatever they have to do. But you do occasionally run into issues where folks, they just want to go ahead and get rolling and get started, and there is a procedure to follow. And you kind of enter into a little bit of difficulty with that. Maybe this is a good time to talk about the Forest Service, who I must say, they contact. One thing I forgot to bring in here, and even if this doesn't impact you, maybe you're interested in reading for what you have in your community, is that the public relations folks with the Chattahoochee National Forest and the Oconee National Forest have put some documents, and I think they're still out there, that outlines their permitting requirements. And that may be something that is just good to know, especially if your counties have any of that land on there, because as Pam has said, that's a major selling point for Raven. That's why people want to shoot there, is because they want to shoot in the state of forest land. But everybody just kind of needs to know from the outset what the requirements are, so there aren't conflicts down the road. And so maybe we could just get into a specific discussion about that one.
Well, here's the story. The killing season, of course, wanted to film on the Chattooga River, which is a wild and scenic river. And I think around the 1st of January, they applied for their special use permit. Well, they actually did everything they were supposed to do. They filed the permits, they communicated on a regular basis. They let the Forest Service know what they were doing and when, and, well, I take it back, not when, but where, and it was to be a low impact shoot, or no impact actually. But what they failed to do was wait on the public comment period. So they went ahead and filmed, and once the public found out, there was some hoopla about the fact that they went without their permit, and now the Forest Service has filed charges against the locations manager, and they're not going to be able to use that portion in the movie at this point. They're going to either have to refile and refilm, or not use that part of the Chattooga River filming at all. So it's, in the long run, the fact that they didn't do everything they were supposed to do is going to cost them a lot of money. Had they, and this is one of the things that I intend to include in the information packet that I'm putting together, is to stress how important it is that if they plan on shooting in national forests, they need to file for their special use permit on day one, because it can take anywhere from 45 days and up to as much as 6 months. So it's important to file those permits, and the state parks are a little more willing to work with them. Excuse me, but not so with the national parks. They have to follow those guidelines, and I think on a local level, the realty specialists would really like to just look the other way and let it be, because they have done everything they were supposed to do, but you can't do that. So that's pretty important.
And, maybe stating the obvious, but if you guys get into the position, our office handles a lot of this preliminary scouting, which I think in a position where you're actually referring locations to these sheriffs, or maybe taking them around in a vehicle or whatever may happen. And it's important for you to show locations to these productions that are actually shootable, that are, you at least have to know that the folks are willing to hear the production company out. You can't drive down the road with them and say, hey, look at that barn over there. That would be a great scene for the script. Well, if you don't know who the property owner is and you don't know if they're into it, you don't want to show that to them, and then they come back later on and say, hey, remember that barn we saw when we were scouting around? That's what we want to shoot. And then you don't know, and then the owner says, nah, I don't want to deal with this. So anytime that you show locations to folks, we really, all of us have to know that they're at least open to filming there. And of course, it's going to depend on the project, it's going to depend on what they want to do. But we assume that everything that you put in the Real Scout system, and sometimes I run into this with photographs that come into our database. There'll be somebody, and this gets into, it's a learning curve for all of us, but sometimes we'll get pictures and it's somebody that drove down the road and just shot a property outside the window, and it looks nice, but you know nothing about it, and the owner's even into it. So for us and for you guys, you always need to have locations in your repertoire that we know are at least open to filming to some degree. Now, Nancy, I don't know if you have any stories like what Nancy said, but have you run into any challenges with property owners in your community?
No challenges that I can think of. The main challenge for us is just to get the the film folks to fill out the proper permits and to abide by the policies that we put in place, because they do tend to just want to set up shop and start filming. So I think we pretty much, Diva now going into the 4th season, we've got them to the point where they know what the drill is. So Mitch will shoot me over an email or call me. We try to stay on top of where they're filming all the time, but occasionally we'll get a phone call from a resident or somebody saying, hey, did you know that Diva's over here filming today? You know, and they're on our street, and there's vehicles parked. And so those are the kind of challenges that we've had, and of course our public safety folks aren't happy about that. So we try to keep the communication going and give a heads up to the fire and the police departments when we have vehicles parked.
And I know that when Mike Riley gets here, we have this panel, we'll probably be discussing this, but there really is, there's the photography part of it where everybody's, the initial location scout is always the most casual part of the process, where we're driving around in the van, we see these locations, they say, yeah, that'd be great. That's kind of the easy part. The challenging part comes in with all the logistical stuff that happens around the actual shooting location. It's of course vary. If you're on park property, there are going to be requirements for that. If somebody's private property, there may not be a permit that's needed for that because the state doesn't issue permits, and it's usually up to the property owner to contract with the show. But it may be that the private property has roads around it that are going to need to be closed because of the trucks, and they need a place for base camp, and they need all these other things that are just beyond the shooting location itself. And that's where it helps to have, that's why we created this program, because you folks know the powers that be in your communities, and it's simpler for you to help these folks out. Kind of say, hey, they're going to need this road closed, or they're going to need to have pyro over here, or they're going to need to do this and that. And you can talk to the folks involved and make sure that everyone's sitting around the table with them to talk about what it is that they want to shoot and what is going to be required. And that happens quite often.
In the case of Joyful Noise, too, we had to arrange for shuttle parking, off-site parking, and shuttling over because we had 2,000 extras for that. So, yeah, those are the kind of requests, you know, kind of different off-the-wall type requests you'll get from them. Just all kinds of, you never can second guess what they are going to be asking of you. We have an airport located in the city, so several times they wanted to film something at the airport, but of course then you have to take into consideration the activity that has to stop that day and that kind of thing. But no problems, I don't think. Just the usual.
So then, Cam, when these shows use state or federal land, how do they work with all the logistical parts of it? Where do they put base camp in the past, and how they shuttle people? Like, I guess the Gorge is a great example because that's such a hard place to get into in certain spots. So how do production companies handle that?
Well, really, it's of course it's as needed, but for the Gorge, the James Hart Yard Center, which is the interpretive center there on the edge of the gorge, and that's where they set up base camp for that. But I mean, we've had base camps set up on the side of the road in wide places, and again on private property, even to get to the national forest. So it kind of depends on exactly where. Our county being so much national forest, we do have a need sometimes to use private property. So that's one thing that we have to tend to, and when you know where they're going to film, that's one of the things we have to start looking for up front is a place for parking. I think the Weddus County they had about 75 vehicles, and there were times when that was a stretch. So.
need to talk a little bit about, let's talk about permitting a little bit, because this is a question we get a lot, especially our communities are from online. And, you know, I always answer the question whether you need one or not. It kind of depends on where you live. The city of Atlanta obviously needs some sort of permitting procedure. There may be other counties that don't need it or choose not to have it. So I just wanted both of you to talk about that. What your communities have decided that you're going to require or not.
Well, one of the things I think is important that we did do was we brought together everybody within the county who plays a part in this camera-ready process for a meeting, and just to talk over what the process should be, because I know that there's a lot of confusion, or there seems to be out there in some of the counties about who does what and who's the contact and that kind of thing. So I think it's important that you gather together everybody in a room, and that's everybody from public safety to the city managers to planning and zoning, code enforcement. We had everybody in the room, and then we put together a presentation to talk about our process. So if there were any questions, we try to keep it fairly simple. It's a little different in Peachtree City than Fayette County. They actually have to go to the county commission office. We have a very brief permit in Peachtree City. We email it to them. They fill it out. Again, simple is better. And then it just has to be signed off by the CBB, code enforcement, and the planning department. And then DOT obviously has to sign off if there's signage, and almost always there is signage involved with the permit here. So we will allow them to go ahead and fill out one permit. Like for instance, Diva just filled the permit out last week. And so we're going to be putting signs up and doing filming for the next 3 or 4 months. And we all signed off on it. So he doesn't have to turn around every time he's going to be filming in Peachtree City and fill out one of these permits. And then we just have an agreement between him, as I mentioned, that he will let me know if they're going to be filming in a specific area. So that's our process. And then I also have a page that lists all of the contacts within the county and the different municipalities. So if they need to go to that individual municipality to talk to somebody, they can do that. So, as I mentioned, simple, keep it simple.
Rabun County, or actually Rabun County, nor the cities require a permit as of yet for filming. The only permits that are required are, of course, the National Forest Service and the state parks. And we hope we can keep it that way, and, because it is simple. But we do, when the film companies come, we have to sit down with the commissioners, with the sheriff's department, roads department, city managers, county managers, and just kind of get a feel for what they're looking for and what to expect. I do have a story, and it's an unfortunate story. And I guess what made me think of this was Nancy was talking about Peachtree City, and I'm not sure how we could have avoided this, but the goats wanted to film on the streets in Clayton, and they were only going to be there for a day. And they went around to all the businesses and let them know, and they were actually going to film in front of a cafe. Well, the cafe didn't like that, and they wanted way more money than they would have lost in business. And the goats actually changed the name of the town that they were to be filming in, so that the name of this cafe could actually be in the movie. And it was a frustrating ordeal. And I guess what the point is that I think it's important to have everyone in your community on board and film friendly, because that really put a bad taste in everyone's mouth, and it kind of it goes forward with you, I believe. So
because somebody, these movies and TV shows love to use locations over and over again because they know that somebody's used it before and they don't have to start over all the time. But as you were talking about that, Casey, I guess maybe we could open this up for a discussion about how you deal with the locals in your community. You ever gotten complaints from any shop owners or property owners, or maybe noise-related issues or anything that has that ever run across your desk?
For the most part, I think people have a fairly positive outlook about the films. You will get that occasional disgruntled resident that is inconvenienced. A lot of times they'll call City Hall, though. They don't really think to call my office. So City Hall is the one that fields those. And I don't think that in any way it's been overwhelming. I do believe that it's very exciting. It's sexy to have your community out there in the films. So for the most part, it has a positive spin throughout the city. And I don't have any war stories about that. Not yet, hopefully.
But if you, I know that our office all the time, we get calls every day, many times a day, for people who want to know who's shooting down the street and how can I contact somebody there, how can I be an extra?
Yes.
And with us, we always refer people to our hotline, because that's where we post announcements that are official from the production companies. As a rule, we're not allowed to give out any phone numbers or addresses for these, but you guys probably know when people call you up on and stuff, you don't give it to them because that would make the company mad. But we send people to our hotline, or they can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. But a lot of times that doesn't stop people. They still want to know what's going on, and not just your local communities, but maybe the media wants to know what's happening. And maybe we can talk a little bit about that, how you manage those questions that you get for folks wanting information.
Well, you get everything from people wanting to send you scripts to, I just really want to be in The Walking Dead. They think that you are an integral part of these films, not that you're just the context. So you'll be famous in that regard, but you quickly bring them back to reality and tell them that is not the role that you play. I have referred them to the different casting agencies. We've referred them to the state site if they have scripts, just to look for information. We just become a referral type agency, I guess, in that regard.
I know, I don't know if this is the story you're telling me, but when Killing Season was up in Reagan, and John Travolta ate that Mexican restaurant, yeah, that was all over Facebook when that happened, and we were getting calls about that. So I assume that you've gotten plenty of inquiries, especially when those folks are up there, where they are and what they're doing.
right. Well, actually, he went to a different restaurant every night. I mean, you talk about a boom to your local industry, the restaurant industry. It was amazing. People were trying to guess where he was going to be, and it was like you said last night. I mean, everybody was going out to eat and hoping that they'd run into John Travolta. But as far as the phone calls, I hadn't gotten phone calls until the Killing Season, and then I got some really weird phone calls, and I just told them to call Craig. I'm just kidding.
They call me anyway. You don't have to.
Actually, I think they came from you. They said you told them to call me.
Yeah, they're playing that game. But this is something that, one thing I did want to mention is that you may get requests from local papers or local TV station, radio station, they want information information on the movie they're shooting there. And, there's nothing. We all want the media to know what's going on. We want everyone to know how successful the state is or what the movie is. It's all positive news, but the production company doesn't want information released that tells folks where they're going to be shooting. The Walking Dead is a perfect example, because that's a show that has rabid fans out there. They will hunt them down wherever they're shooting. I've seen websites out there where people have shot photos of them on their iPhones and posted them. This is information that we try our best not to give out, because we want to be a good host for these production companies and not make it difficult for them. A lot of these shows, if your news media wants some sort of official statement about the movie shooting there, we enjoy being here, blah, blah, blah. Each one of these shows typically has a publicist. That's their job, is to put out information about the show. So if you don't know who that person is, you're welcome to ask them, and I can find out who that is. But a lot of this information really needs to go through them first, and not the production company, because they're trying, whoever's in your community is just trying to make the movie or show, and it's the publicist's job to deal with the press. So that's something that is helpful to keep track of. Documents about everything from shooting location photos to what to expect when someone wants to shoot on the property. We have some sample location contracts, and I would highly recommend whoever it is to kind of look through those and get a sense of what may be required. That's where we post that. Now, our website is evolving as the program evolves. So one of the things that we offer and we're adding to is a film permit procedures page, which essentially is a bunch of links to all the different entities in your communities which may require permits. So it can be the city, it can be the county, it can be, in the case of Pam was talking about, offer a link to this document which is passed around Forest Services. We want to keep adding to that. So if you know things that should be added tonight, or for instance, to this particular page on our website, let me know, and I'm happy to link to it. Georgia.org, and then your shortcut to us is FMDE for Film, Music, and Digital Entertainment. And once you get there, you just go to the cameras. When somebody has a project in the beginning and they're looking for a place to shoot. Well,
The question is, are the leads coming through the state office, or are they
most of the time it's through the state, but now we're in a position position where the camera-ready liaison list is out there on the web. A lot of location managers are just contacting you directly. We had a situation like that recently where a request came out for a meeting that I'd never heard of, and I had people emailing me and saying, who's this person? What is this? And I always say that if you hear directly from someone who's not me, at least let me know about it. Maybe I know about it, maybe I don't, but it's better to let me know so I can figure out what's going on and what the project is. But most of the time, the lead comes through our office first, and they'll send us a script or location breakdown for the project, and we send out a preliminary photo package based on what it is that we're looking for. And that's why you guys putting photographs into the Real Scout system is so important, because if you have something that is ours and we don't know about it, we're never going to know about it, or at least not at that point. Once they kind of decide on areas that they want to look into, then typically we start dealing with you guys. The initial call typically is first. It sounds like lunch is being set up. We still got a few minutes though, so I want to open this up to questions. This is a real good opportunity. Well, she wanted to know the Forest Service charges a fee. Is there insurance required? Yes. I'm just going to translate. Let's try. Yeah, that means.
So we don't even have our feet wet at this point. So I truly am interested in learning how to prepare and hopefully become friendly before somebody shows up. So I've heard you talk about the permitting process and some of the interesting extra questions and that kind of thing. What are the other major pitfalls that a community should be aware of or wary of, I should say, when a production company comes to town, whenever somebody comes, how can we make sure that we stay on the positive side of a production company's, that they stay positive about our community? What are the pitfalls?
Well, you guys probably have some more specific information about that locally. I was going to say, our position on permitting is just to be as flexible and film-friendly as you can be, not to throw out too many rules and regulations, because that may drive a company away. I think it's going to be too difficult. It's a balancing act, because you do have to protect the community and make sure people don't get taken advantage of, bad things don't happen. But I think the key to it is, as we've been talking about, is to really have communication between all the powers that be, and let everyone know that they may be called upon at some point to deal with film and TV shooting related questions, and it's not a surprise when somebody wants to get a road close and you call somebody up and they're, who are you? What do you want to do? These are folks that every situation is different, but I think you do have to have a group of team players that need to know that they're going to get these requests, to prepare them as best you can. Now, the permits, we do have Nancy's permitting application here. On our website, as I mentioned, there's a page of different links to different applications and permits. So maybe something that you look from there and see what do some research and see what other companies are requiring. And it's sort of a wide variety of things, again, depending on what community it is. Big cities can have different needs than a rural county. So it may be helpful to do some research with that. I don't know if there's specific.
insurance is an incredible source of information. It really, I mean, if you study that, you won't have years more questions as you might think. Greg has always been extremely helpful with me as far as any question I might have, too. He's very patient. But communication and educating your peers. What's okay to say no to?
No, you don't have to be you have to look at the end of the day, you have to look after your communities. You're trying to bring lives there because it brings development. So you're not going to let somebody just come in and start blowing stuff up in your town. It's you know, you have to be conscious of what your community's best interests are. I would say if it's something that's going to be negative in the end to your community, it's going to possibly keep you. We talk about what we call burning a location. We're talking this time. If a movie company, if a property owner or business owner has a bad experience with one show, they're not going to let people shoot it. And there's going to be a negative environment that's going to be created in your community, and then they're going to say, you know what, we don't really use license things. That's an extreme example. I haven't really run across that yet, but it's happened in other cities. When I drive people around the van, there are plenty of stories about other cities that have had film business that we have. People that live on the street are so tired of these people shooting that as soon as they start making sound, they go outside with leaf blowers or bang trash can lids and they can't let sound because they don't want it. And then if you're not careful, that's the kind of environment that can be created if you don't address your community's concerns. So I would never tell them that you have to accept every single thing. You really have to. You want that line between being a good host and friendly, but also making sure it's something positive. Sounds like lunch is being served. Thank you very much. I hope this was beneficial to you. See you over there.